You'd love to buy a home with no money down, but you never served in the military, so you don't qualify for a VA loan. And you heard about USDA loans, but you don't want to live out in the boondocks somewhere. Well, I've got good news. You don't have to be prior military or live out in the boonies just to buy a home with potentially no money down. Today we're talking about USDA loans, and we're going to be clearing up some of the myths and misconceptions that make people think they don't qualify. So, first things first, what even is a USDA loan? It's a government-backed home loan that in many cases lets you buy a home with zero down payment. Yes, zero, as in keep your savings account intact. That usually gets people's attention pretty fast. The key is understanding the USDA requirements, because once you do, it's a lot less intimidating than it sounds. One of the main USDA requirements has to do with where the house is located. And no, it doesn't have to be on a farm. You don't need chickens, a tractor, overalls, or a pitchfork. A lot of perfectly normal neighborhoods qualify, especially just outside of larger city centers. Most people are genuinely surprised when they see the map. Another big thing people worry about with USDA requirements is income. This is where people count themselves out way too quickly. USDA looks at total household income and compares it to limits that vary by area and household size. In those limits, they're often higher than people think. Translation? You might make more than you think you can and still be okay, able to qualify. And speaking of moving from a distance, trying to get a feel for a new city when you're not actually here, it can be rough. Google can't tell you what it feels like to live somewhere, and scrolling endlessly usually just creates more questions. So I put together a relocation guide to help make the transition smoother and help you settle in faster. If that sounds helpful to you, you can grab it for free using the link in the description. Now, back to USDA requirements. Credit is another thing that scares people off. You don't need perfect credit. USDA loans are usually known for being more flexible than people expect. While a lot of lenders like to see a score around 640, your whole financial picture matters more than one number on a screen. So don't count yourself out just because your credit history might have a few blemishes. Another requirement is that the home has to be your primary residence. In other words, you actually plan to live there yourself. This isn't for investment properties or vacation homes, but if you're buying a place to call home, that part is usually pretty straightforward. Debt is another thing people stress about. Car payments, student loans, credit cards. It doesn't automatically disqualify you. USDA requirements look at how your debts compare to your income, not whether you're completely debt-free. Spoiler alert, most people are not completely debt-free. Now, let's talk about the myths, because these can make people disqualify themselves unnecessarily. USDA loans are not only for low-income buyers. USDA loans don't automatically take forever to close. And yes, sellers do accept USDA offers when they're written correctly. These myths stop people before they even start, and that's the real problem. If you're still sitting there wondering whether USDA requirements might actually work for you, the best next step is just getting real information instead of guessing. I'll put a link to the USDA website so that you can take a look for yourself. Another good resource is reaching out to your lender. If you don't have one, give me a call or a text, and I'll help connect you to a lender that knows about USDA loans. And if you're that person who knows you don't want to live out on a farm and you'd like to live within the city limits, but you'd also like a home with some character and charm in a well-established neighborhood, click here to watch this video on one of Shreveport's best-known neighborhoods, Broadmoor. I think you'll be pleased.